The first car of this brand had no engine. To show it at the Turin Motor Show, engineers put bricks under the hood and locked it so it wouldn't open. Designers get their ideas from everywhere, and sometimes the most unexpected objects are the sources of inspiration. For example, the design of some of these cars is inspired by fighter jets. These are now some of the fastest and most expensive cars in the world. Some of them could reach speeds of up to 370 kilometers per hour and were sold for more than $1.5 million. And it all started with tractors. The first machines were tractors, and they are still being made today. The founder was a farmer's son, and from his childhood he liked to work with mechanisms. So it came naturally that his first project was agricultural machinery. The logo of the Italian car industry legend is a black shield with a golden bull. But why a bull? Because the founder was born under the sign of Taurus in the Eastern Horoscope. The businessman believed that the power of the zodiac symbol would bring him good luck and also demonstrate the power of the brand sports cars. Besides, the founder of the company was a longtime fan of the bullfight. As you have already guessed, today we will talk about Lamborghini. As you know, Lamborghini is the direct competitor of Ferrari. But not everyone knows that thanks to Ferrari, this company appeared. Before building the first sports cars, Ferruccio Lamborghini owned a Ferrari 250 GT, but he was not satisfied with its many shortcomings. He said this directly to Enzo Ferrari, who responded by advising him to move on to tractors. Ferruccio took it as a personal challenge. From this video, you will learn: how did our hero become a prisoner of war? How could his tractors use both gasoline and diesel at the same time? And what did he dislike so much about Ferrari? The history of Lamborghini. Lamborghini was born on April 28, 1916, in a small commune called Cento. The family were farmers. He was supposed to be a farmer too, but it turned out that his family was able to do what not every parent today is able to do: listen to the desires of his child. I can't even believe it. Worthy of envy. In general, Lamborghini spent a lot of time on mechanics. Very much. He was a creator at heart, and that heart belonged in this area. His father, by the way, was also a mechanic, though not so passionately. All the farmers in the area knew about his talent and would go to him if they had something broken there. Lamborghini looked at it and was like, I want to do that too, and in general showed it very strongly. The father understood these aspirations, thought about it, and allotted a little space for his son to go crazy in his own way. It did not go to waste. A father should have been proud of his son, and we won't know if he was or not. Lamborghini devoted so much time to this business that he became as good at technology as his father, if not better. This led to the fact that Antonio, as Lamborghini's father was called, started to ask for help in repairing equipment, if he couldn't do it himself. Anyway, from that time, Ferruccio's stellar career began. He ended up going to the Fratelli Taddea Technical Institute near Bologna, where he successfully graduated. That was the end of his early years. Next comes some shock, which we think changed him a lot. But about that a little later. For now, we'll say he wasn't just interested in technology, he was interested in cars. He was very interested in cars. His father, by the way, encouraged this too, because he was not going to prevent his son from comprehending the structure of cars. Young Lamborghini also adored motorsports and races. He knew everything that was happening on that stage at that moment, and the names of the racers, and the models, and the devices of the models, and the way these races were held, who won and who lost. Apparently, this is what led to the fact that he wanted to create not just any, but full-fledged, sporty, fast cars. We shall return to this later. So young Lamborghini was making plans and thinking how to start his own company, and then BAM happened. The BAM was World War II, which simply ruined all his plans. Lamborghini was a prisoner of war. In short, the shooting started. Italy was one of the Axis countries, and unlike Germany, its closest comrade in arms was blatantly losing almost the entire war. At first, it struggled, and then the Allies subdued it so that it did not play any role in the course of events until the end of the war at all. And Ferruccio Lamborghini, who had generally tried all his life to stay out of politics, was forced to go into service. He served on the Isle of Rhodes, where first the Great and Terrible Germany came, and then Britain knocked it out. Eventually, Lamborghini was taken prisoner, where he stayed until 1946. What a mess! First, the Germans, and then the British saw that such talent was being wasted, so they decided to give him his own workshop. There, he repaired broken equipment. It's unclear exactly how captivity affected him. The only thing that is clear is that there he found his future bride, who is not clear what she was doing in those places at all, and he returned from captivity a different person. Instead of continuing to study theory and dream, he got right down to business. By the way, in 1947, a tragedy happened in his life. By that time, Lamborghini was already married, but his wife died during childbirth. The boy's name was Tonino Lamborghini. And today, this boy produces expensive phones. But this is not about him. What else was Lamborghini to do? He survived the war, captivity, the death of the wife he loved. Poor guy. All he had left was his son, his possessions, and his inspiration and ideas, and he put the latter to work. In 1947, he opened a garage. Not a company, not a factory, no, a garage. It was humble, simple, elegant, just like Steve Jobs. There, he began to do what he had been preparing to do for so many years, to make cars by any means. The first thing he did there was redesign his flat Topolino, the first car he ever bought. And in his spare time, he built the tractors that would later become the first Lamborghini we know. And he had so much fun with his car that he changed it beyond recognition. A small and cozy car had turned into a roaring monster with an open top and a 750 cubic engine. In it, he took part in the Mille Miglia race in 1948, drove 680 miles and either got drunk at the wheel, went blind, or fell asleep, but exited the race when he crashed into a restaurant. Not bad, huh? Imagine the shock those people, including couples in love, felt when this monster crashed into the restaurant. Lamborghini was stubborn, but not stupid or blind. He could not ignore what was happening in his country in 1947 and beyond. The economic boom had not escaped this man's eyes, and he realized that he, with his deepest knowledge and immense talents, would hit the business like that restaurant by the car. So he took it and made his first tractor, his own. Thus came the first of his companies, Lamborghini Trattori. Of course, he did not build his empire from nothing. His first tractor, the Carioca, had a trick. Although Italy's economy was growing, gasoline was not cheap. So Lamborghini equipped it with an injector made in-house. If anything, an injector is a wonder that sprays and transmits fluids under pressure, and it is used to transfer fuel to the engine. Lamborghini's miracle was that his injector allowed tractors to be started with gasoline and then switched to diesel, which was much cheaper. In the end, his tractor was a success. Not unreasonable, in fact. The tractor was good. Lamborghini knew what he was doing. And on the basis of that success, the first Lamborghini company was opened. It got into the tractor business, which is obvious from the name. The first thing he wanted to do was to develop this unplowed field of tractor manufacturing. It wasn't without challenges, of course. His tractor was based on a Morris truck engine, so it took a lot of money, time, and effort to get a business off the ground. Lamborghini was not a shy guy, so what do you think he did? He just took out a loan and mortgaged all the property he owned, even the farm where his father worked, with his father's permission, of course. But it paid off. We said he took an unplowed field. Do you know why? Because nobody was making tractors in those years. Nobody cared so much about farming that there was an acute shortage of machinery. Lamborghini understood that, and he really got into the business. And he succeeded. Thanks to the trick that Lamborghini introduced into tractors, his company took off. He became a millionaire. And he was also a child, a dreamer, the Steve Jobs and Elon Musk of his time. So you know where he put his money first? That's right, the carpool. And he bought a huge pile of cars. First of all, he bought Ferrari cars. This eventually led Lamborghini both to a conflict with Enzo Ferrari and to the creation of a super successful car brand. Lamborghini loved high speed. Of course he did. He loved racing. And the cars he had before the Ferrari did not meet his needs at all. He criticized the Maserati for the fact that 220 kilometers per hour was not enough for him. And Ferrari for the clutch and the too small interiors. The latter, in particular, pissed him off. What pissed him off was that the clutches constantly had to be repaired, and that when the repairs took place, Lamborghini, who is a millionaire, could not even see his car for several hours. Lamborghini publicly criticized Ferrari for this, but the moment of truth came when Ferruccio went to extreme measures. He met with Enzo Ferrari himself, and he told him, "Okay, let's slow down a little bit. A meeting of two millionaires. One makes the best tractors in Italy. The other makes some of the best sports cars." They set up a meeting, which didn't last long. The first to arrive was Ferruccio. He waited a long time, and then Enzo finally came to the meeting. Ferruccio was the first to speak. He complained about both the clutch and the small interiors, and a lot of other things that were generally considered fair to Ferrari. And at the end, Lamborghini threw a phrase right in Enzo's face that shocked him. "You know, Mr. Enzo, your cars are no good, and I hope you will improve them." And you know how Enzo responded? "You are easy to drive your tractors, but you will not be able to learn to drive my cars. A tractor manufacturer can't criticize sports cars." And that was the end of the meeting. We don't know how fast Ferruccio made it home that day. So he got home, sat, and thought, and a simple idea occurred to him. Damn, I don't give a fuck. I'm a millionaire and a mechanic. That's how the Automobili Lamborghini's SPA brand was born. The logic was simple. If the manufacturer of my favorite sports cars can't bring them to perfection, I'll create a sports car that's perfect myself. And he did. 4 months later. We'll talk as little as possible about the company, but as much as possible about the person. So this man was able to attract Enzo Ferrari's best employees to create his first car. Yeah, How do you think the car these people worked on might have turned out? That's how the first model came about. The Lamborghini 350 GT, which became legendary. The following year, Lamborghini brought out another car, and then more. It's funny that one of his cars was recognized as the ugliest car of the year. It was the Lamborghini Espada, shown in 1968. Well, as is usually the case, this car ended up being popular with the public. There was nothing unnecessary in Lamborghini cars, and that is the secret of their success. It was comfortable to drive in them both in the city and on journeys. Perfect cars in general. But what is interesting is Lamborghini's policy towards racing. He said right away that his cars would never compete in them. Ever. As long as he was alive. And he was as good as his word. But his cars could have burnt the racing ground. Well, you can't change the course of history. Apparently, he wouldn't want to see his car crash again in the hands of an inexperienced pilot. In 1972, Lamborghini got to thinking, realized he didn't need to run the whole thing by himself, and sold 51% of his car company to a man named Georges Henri Rossetti. Then he sold the other 49%. What did he get out of it? He was a millionaire who provided for himself until the day he died. Moreover, he had several companies in his hands. For example, he kept Lamborghini Calor, which is currently creating boilers, and Lamborghini Oleodynamica, which was also doing something. Eventually, in 1974, he buys 740 acres of land, which he had long had his eye on, somewhere in Castiglione del Lago, in Umbria. Then he moves there, rests, goes hunting, and starts growing grapes. From the grapes, he makes good wine, which wins awards. He builds golf courses, befriends the Pope, John Paul II, and builds a car for him. And so his life goes at a measured pace until 1993. He gives his soul to God as the result of a heart attack. Full of life, and as they call it, relying on his people. Such a story. A strong, profound, dizzying story of equally dizzying success. No tractors in the country? I'll make my own. Didn't like sports cars of other manufacturers? I'll make my own. And it worked, didn't it? He owned a bunch of companies, was generally quite successful in his personal life, was a millionaire and an eternal dreamer. His cars were breaking records, reaching speeds of 300 kilometers per hour. No car did that in those years. He was absolutely happy. Ferruccio did not give up on his goals. He knew what he wanted, and he went ahead to achieve his desires. He never showed weak character, never was lazy. He worked hard, understood what was necessary and appropriate, and was, in the end, an intelligent and hardworking man who didn't care about anything. Such was the quiet boy who had even been in captivity and met his first wife there. And his son is the same, by the way, and his company holds to the principles he laid down. If God exists and there is an afterlife, Ferruccio should be proud of the cars his company makes today.